Does this book have a ton of smut in it? Yes. But does that take away from the story? I would say no from a literary perspective, and yes from personal taste. The dead stood motionless, a legion poised to strike. Her will was their will, her command their only reason for being. They had no self left, only Nesta flowing through them. A Court of Silver Flames is about Nesta Archeron, our anti-hero, gifted with the power of death. She's afraid of the wolf that she became and then how that wolf devoured her. Sarah J. Maas has once again written another beautiful story about a character struggling with trauma and coming out the other side still broken, but with hope and seeing love and light in the world again and willing to try. So this book was not at all what I expected, and I went on a whirlwind of emotions with Nesta. And this book was written very differently compared to the rest of the series. This is very much a character deep dive, and yes, it does further along the plot of what has happened in Corinthian post-war, along with the world building. But that's happening in the background for a reason. Was I incredibly annoyed about this while I was reading? Yes. Yes, I was. Because I wanted the fantasy plot happening right in the forefront. But I realized that's because I was primed off of the first 3 books, which were meant to be just a trilogy. That was all Sarah was meant to write. We were supposed to end on A Court of Wings and Ruin. And this book is definitely a standalone book in the series. Also, I somehow forgot that Sarah J. Maas does everything for a reason and on purpose. So it all came together in the last 200 pages, giving us literally like one of the coolest epic endings, especially for this character Nesta. And I personally think had it not been written this way, we wouldn't get this ending. We wouldn't deserve this ending for her. And because Nesta, for me, comes off as a very unlikable character, I can't get all those vulnerable moments I want from Nesta. Because Nesta isn't willing to face everything she feels, I'm not gonna get those vulnerable moments right away. And that's probably my favorite thing about how this story was written, because if you think about it in real life, when you're struggling that much, you don't wanna look inward. You don't want to face all those scary, awful things happening inside of you. And I think that's very relatable. So again, the ending is where this all came together for me, and this is where Nesta is truly put to the test in her hero's journey. She has to learn not only how to fight and take care of herself, but she has to take care of others. She literally enters the fight of her life, forced to participate in the Illyrian Rite, which is basically a warrior battle to the death. And she was forced into it because it's a trap set just for her. I'm so proud of Nesta in this book because she started this book as someone who didn't want to show weakness, didn't want to show vulnerability, didn't want to show love. And in this battle, she had completed that transformation. We saw strength from Nesta, vulnerability and love for herself, but also for her family and her newfound friends. And one of those characters that Nesta finds love for in this story is her friend Gwen. And her friend reminds her, our stories are worth telling. This quote was truly the first quote in the book that actually made me cry and just really feel connected to what was going on in Nesta's story. Your story and Nesta's story is worth telling, and sometimes we can bottle up so much pain inside of us because we're afraid of how people will react, whether or not they'll listen, understand, or love us through it. That's also what is so important about Nesta's journey. Her willingness to try, her willingness to open up to Gwen and her other friend Emery, who have also had very similar struggles. And they too showed up to do warrior training with her when they were terrified to face their own demons. It truly made me fall in love with Nesta's story because whatever your truth is, it's worth telling, and the people that matter most will love you through all of it. And in my opinion, vulnerability is one of the most beautiful things in the world. Speak your truth, speak your story, and find the people that will love you through it all. This story is really about just finding the courage to try, the willingness to try, no matter how big or how scary it is to climb that mountain. It's just about beginning, trying again. And that quote, I think it'll honestly stick with me forever. So let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room, the smut. Nesta is a very physical person. She was originally trained as a dancer. She was taught to use it as a weapon. She struggles with communication and talking about her feelings. However, she responds incredibly well in warrior training, and that actually gave her the most beneficial tools so that when she did go into battle or had to defend herself, she became laser focused, she was focused on her breathing, and she was able to express herself in fierce precision. just like Cassian who trained her, and that's also why I think they complete each other so well romantically. It's also important to note that Mass made Nesta a fan of romance books, so much to the point that she has like a romance book club with Emery and Gwen. Like, she is a fan of that. And who, like you watching this right now, doesn't want to live out your books that you love reading? So essentially, Mass gave Nesta like the best gift in the world. This is Nesta's romance book. Why shouldn't she deserve to live out her romance story? Now, I personally could have had more fade to black scenes, but as a biased fan and someone who loves Mass's writing so much, this is something that she wanted. And because she handles trauma so well in her books and intertwines it beautifully with fantasy, I mean, what more could I truly ask for? I don't think it's completely fair to knock a book on this feature unless it's not handled well. And in my opinion, it was handled very well in this book. One of my friends doesn't believe in DNFing and deciding to not finish a book because the ending could turn it all around for you, and that's what this ending did for me. Excuse the metaphor, but it's like baking a cake that you decide to never put in the oven, so then you have no idea what it's actually going to turn out to be, unless you cook it and allow it to transform. The book needs all the ingredients mixed up. It needs time to heat in the oven, bake, and then after you see it fully decorated in the end, you can finally decide how you feel about it. If I had turned my nose up at this story just because of all the smut, I would have missed out on so much in this book. I wouldn't discount this book for a second. To focus on the good, the things that fill you with wonder. The struggle with that darkness is worth it, just to see such things. You might miss a lot of important things in this book if you don't look into the darkness, or rather something that just isn't your cup of tea. It's just one piece of the ingredient, not the whole picture. If you like this video, I have a whole playlist on more ACOTAR videos.